It's time to answer the question that everyone has been asking. What will be the first I Did Everything video of 2025? And to that, I say, go Gris, girl. This is obviously an absolutely gorgeous game. I mean, just look at this right here. We are playing as this character with very colorful hair that I'm gonna assume is called Gris or Gris. I don't know, people call it different things. I'm gonna go with Gris though. Anyway, we are standing in the palm of what seems to be a giant stone hand, and we are floating slightly off the ground and singing. Everything seems really nice and pretty until the palm begins to crack and shatter beneath us, and we are launched very, very far down below. We arrive on the ground miraculously unharmed, but the color that was in the world previously seems to have disappeared. We're now just walking back and forth in a plain black and white landscape. And of course we go left at first to check if there's any achievement for that, but not in this game. We also started out very, very slowly, but before long we begin to run and even jump again. So we're slowly building ourselves back up, I guess. We eventually run and jump our way up to this big set of like ruins with all of these columns going up to a big bridge where we find a little floating ball of light that seems to be friendly at least, so that's good. I was really kind of expecting the light to like run away from me and we were gonna have to chase it down or something. Eventually going to the right is just no longer an option for us, and we have to do something revolutionary. We actually have to turn around and go to the left. It's a little bit wild, but we enter up onto the top bridge area of those ruins from before. And actually we must be going the right way because in these ruins we find a second little ball of light. Nothing super interesting has happened with them yet though. But we do begin to see what their power is as we climb to the top of a nearby tower past a little stingray thing that definitely isn't any kind of foreshadowing whatsoever. These little balls of light connect to each other like they're constellations or something, and they allow us to walk across gaps as a bridge. After we build that first bridge though, I decide to do a very small amount of backtracking back to an area that I saw over a ledge before, where I find another little kind of glowing white circle thing. Except this one is a little bit different. This doesn't work to build a bridge like the other little balls of light do. They are mementos, the collectible item of this game, and something that isn't super important to collect other than for achievements, but was a little confusing to me at the time. Anyway, once we do that, we build our next bridge, this time with 3 of the little light ball pieces, and we can once again move on our way. This leads us back down to ground level where we find another stone palm, though this one is intact. We step up into the palm and go up into a little cocoon ball kind of thing, but then we explode with a bunch of energy and everything around us gets a very noticeable red hue. And this makes sense because we earn the achievement red right here. We momentarily emerge out of the newly red desert into a little shrine looking area, but as we're walking by we notice a 1 out of 2 little white light dot thing, which makes me feel distinctly like I've missed some stuff. We walk straight past that gate of inadequacy as we approach the center of this big set of ruins, and we see our 3 little light balls that we collected fly up to the sky in the shape of a constellation. Wow, what do you know, that thing I said before was right. It's almost like I've played the game before. We leave our mystical shine balls behind and we jump down the nearest cliff because we're a video game protagonist, and we go for a very long slide on down. Once we reach the bottom of that hill and climb up another nearby tower, man, they were building a lot of towers in wherever this society was. We see what felt like a very late title card roll slowly fade into the background of the screen. I mean, it was only like, I don't know, 15-20 minutes of gameplay, maybe probably not even that, but it just felt like weirdly late in the game. We leave the safety of our tower and continue walking further to the right, and it's probably lucky that we got off the top of that building when we did because a sandstorm is blowing in, and so it's actually only blowing in every couple seconds, and during that time we need to go ahead and take cover. I decided to test what would happen if you ignored the buildings during the sandstorm, and nothing super bad, you just get blown back a little bit, but your character gets knocked down. The main thing here is that I definitely didn't need to run out into the sandstorm, and I just cost myself an achievement because of it. At least we're not having too much trouble making friends in the desert, though. I mean, everybody needs a friend that's like a big spider monster that lives inside of a rock, right? We say goodbye to our big spider friend, but in exchange, we get access to Gris's first power. And it's a pretty good one given the situation. We can actually transform ourselves into like a big block form that has a lot of weight to it. Interesting. The main use that this power is going to have throughout the rest of the game is that we can smash our way straight through floors like we just did here to get another memento. But in this area specifically, it actually helps us out with our added cushion weighing us down, and we can slowly trudge our way through the sandstorm even while it's blowing. Once we make it through the sandstorm, we find another little shrine looking area, this time below a bell, and it just so happens that the floor is looking a little bit cracked, so of course we can go ahead and bust our way straight down through that. We continue smashing our way through the floor until we arrive in some sort of sub-basement space between worlds. Down here we find an absolute ton of little bat-like creatures and a bunch more statues of stone women. We run to the left and smash a statue with our new stone ability, which was actually a really good move achievement-wise, but then I went and blew another potential achievement by smashing the wrong statue. Apparently smashing that statue angered the little black triangles as they carry us all the way up to some sort of floating bridge area. This area is actually really cool in my opinion, honestly. We're running across this big bridge up in the sky that has these kind of protractor-looking automatic bridges that move out underneath your feet, and that gets blended with another area of red stone with all of these pillars and like structures built into it. Inside these little red stone tunnels, I noticed these weird little pillars of rocks that you could actually smash with the stone form if you got close to them. I went ahead and smashed quite a few of these as I moved through the level, and it turns out I just barely missed out on another achievement here. Ugh. This area also features a super cool little puzzle where you need to weigh down this little hot air balloon looking thing, and then you need to race back up to the top of the tower to be able to jump on top of the hot air balloon and then ride it up to the next area. Super cool stuff. Once we've collected all of the little white orbs in this area, we can go ahead and bring them to the top of this kind of clock tower looking area and use them to build another bridge. That's kind of the main mechanic of this game, by the way, if I didn't make that clear. We're really looking for these little white orbs that will allow us to progress further into every level. And we get those orbs primarily by solving puzzles in the surrounding area. This area also has one more super cool trick up its sleeves. We need to do some parkour up this giant kind of Ferris wheel looking thing and hit it with a super big ground pound from the top ropes. Once we do that, we begin to ascend up into the sky and reconnect with another bridge that will allow us to proceed even further. That bridge leads us directly into the hands of a trap. Or wait, it's a palm. It's just another one of the palms, and we do our big scream thing, and everything turns green as we earn the achievement green. This is revolutionary. We once again go for a very big slide down into the next level, but this time we're sliding down vines and vine-covered arms instead of the rock face that we were doing previously. That leads us right back to the little shrine area where we can launch our shining balls up into the sky to form another part of that constellation. I feel like this is a good time for me to drop in that this is an extremely linear game. Sometimes there is a little bit of choice as far as which of the couple of puzzles you want to do first, but the majority of the time, everything in this game is a straight path. But despite that, in my first time through this game, I pretty much constantly felt like there were 100 different directions to go. I didn't know what was side content. Obviously, I don't like missing anything the first time through, so I was looking around everywhere, and I just felt a little bit lost in this game, but it's pretty much a straight shot. We do another really big fall down, getting to kind of be the thing with this game, but this time we land in a very lush green forest. As we walk through this forest, we find a guy with a very big square head who seems to be crying, and, can't really blame him, but he seems to be a little bit afraid of us, so he takes off. And naturally, he's a little afraid, he just wants to make a friend, so it's time to chase him down. It turns out that the key to this guy's heart comes from an accident. We drop an apple on the ground, and he comes out of hiding to come grab it up, and he absolutely devours it. Now that he's learned that we're a little bit of a food source, he is following us, but with a safe distance. Anytime we try to turn around, he just pops directly into the ground. We really need this guy to cheer up, and also, I feel kind of a sense that I really want to make this guy like me for some reason. We haven't really made like a buddy in this game, so we're gonna feed this guy as many apples as it takes. And it turns out that as many apples as it takes is about 4. And then he is absolutely buddy-buddy with us, will let us touch him, and he's even willing to open up some secret passageways for us. We continue on with some fun little movement-ish puzzles where he will duplicate the movements that we do, and that includes him turning into a block, which makes sense given the head situation, I guess. Eventually we go down into a hill and find that there is a pretty big tunnel system that's been dug out, and we find that our block-headed buddy seems to have reunited with his family or friends or something. I don't know, they only kind of look alike. Nobody else is really block-shaped. But anyway, he gives us a little light ball and we move on. And with 2 shine balls in pocket, we can return to another one of the upgrade station things. I mean, not really, but that's basically what they are. And we get access to our next ability. It gives us not only a double jump, but a kind of glide jump, and we can also do a super jump in the midst of butterflies. And super jump we will. This becomes another extremely important power in this game. Honestly, there are only a couple different powers that you actually get, but every single one feels super impactful. I mean, look at this stuff that we can do now. Except, maybe those red triangle butterflies are actually a little bit evil. They lured us right into this giant field of black triangles that once again swoop around and take the form of a giant bird who is not super happy with us. And that leads us into the first of 2 boss fights in this game, though boss fight is kind of a weird term for a game like this because there isn't really a fail state, the bird isn't going to kill us. But instead we're just kind of trying to avoid the bird while solving little puzzles, and sometimes we actually need to use the bird to launch us across 2 different areas that we wouldn't be able to access on our own. It's pretty interesting, and honestly I definitely prefer this boss fight over the second one. Eventually we make it to the top of yet another giant tower, and we launch ourselves way up into the air. The place that a bird definitely wouldn't go to attack us or anything. But it seems like maybe we're cool now because we're just kind of flying up to the next area together. Nah, just kidding, he's definitely still mad, but when we get him to ring this bell in his own face, that scares him off for good, and we can move on. Bye bye birdie. Once that little birdie has been dealt with, we walk directly into the giant stone hands of another giant woman, and we turn everything blue this time, and you get no points for guessing what the name of this achievement is. It's blue. So of course we do yet another giant fall all the way down, but this time we actually land in water, and using the Minecraft method, we take no damage. We landed in water in a blue level. Oh no. Well, don't get too excited. First we have to take a quick stop off and drop off the new shine balls that we've collected. After that, it's time to descend into a very narrow and, kind of one-way path down into a blue tunnel. And I've got to say, man, I mentioned it at the start, but this is just an absolutely gorgeous game. Look at it. As we descend, we get into a little bit of an icy area, which introduces another super cool puzzle-solving mechanic where there's this kind of flash of blue where wherever you're standing gets turned into ice. And we can utilize this to do things like turn our box form into a frozen stepping block for us. Super cool area. Get it with the ice and stuff? So we pop a couple of lights into the upgrade station, and it's time for us to get our third power, where we can transform into a manta ray-like creature as soon as we hop into the water. Yep, it's a water level for sure. We have a little bit of a problem though. The farther down you get in the water, the darker things get, and it's a little hard for us to proceed. But we very quickly find a solution to that, befriending a turtle who lights our way. We're making friends all over the place now. We use the light of the turtle to eventually break out onto a different surface on the back of a statue this time, and we can once again climb our way around it. We climb into the palm of this statue, who is now looking quite complete if I'm honest with you, and we once again light up the sky. Except this time the color doesn't change that much, but the light does hit our eye like a big pizza pie. That's amore, or should I say that's giallo, as we earn the achievement yellow. That pronunciation was bad, I'm so sorry. Everything was looking pretty good there for a second, until those dang black triangles came around again and destroyed the statue that we were talking to. That same statue, as well as us, are wrapped in a giant black covering. We decide to launch ourselves into the air to try to avoid it, but it once again morphs into the bird. We launch ourselves into a nearby water source, thinking that would probably lose the bird, but the bird actually has the same powers we do and transforms into an eel that tries to chase us down. This would be the second boss fight of the game, and just like the first one, it's not really a boss fight. There's no way to fail, though I did actually fail to dodge all of the bites, which would have been another achievement. This one doesn't even really have puzzles though, you're kind of just moving in a straight line. Just as the eel is finally gearing up to take us out with one last big bite, we get saved by our luminous turtle friend, who reconnects and guides us safely out of the water. And that of course allows us to do the most important thing and drop off the penultimate light balls for the Constellation Collection. So that leads us into the final area of the game, which actually introduces a couple more interesting mechanics, like this one where you have certain special butterflies that light up a specific area around you and give you a certain amount of time to finish up certain puzzles before the thing that they lit up fades away. This ability also leads to some minor but still pretty cool little puzzle things. Honestly, I don't think this game gets the respect that it deserves as a puzzle game. None of them are super difficult. It takes like, a couple minutes of looking at it, maybe at the high end, but they're fun. This area also introduces a line in the sky that if you cross, it flips you upside down, and then the same thing if you cross back going the other direction. If this was a first-person game, I would have been a little bit perturbed by this with my motion sickness issues, but in this view, it's no big deal at all, just some fun little puzzle additions. This also leads to what I would say is probably the hardest little bit of parkour in the game, where you need to do a boost out of some water upside down into the right side up area, and then you need to use some butterflies that you were carrying to launch you back upside down on the other side of a spire. Not super difficult, but probably the most difficult in this game. And completing that last little jump leads us directly into unlocking our fourth and final power in this game, the power of song. Now at will, we can restore some flowers that were missing back to their proper colorful selves, and we can also unfurl some birds. And in addition to flower resurrection, it also allows us to bring some butterflies back that will let us boost up later on. And, it also lets us grow a sapling into a giant tree that has all of these different ends split off of it. These branches form other treetops, and it just becomes like a huge network of trees that we can parkour up. But, we'll come back to this later. This seems kind of like endgame stuff, and there's a little bit to look around at down here still. Like those birds that I mentioned, there's some of those around that we can sing to, and then it makes them kind of wake up and spread their feathers again. This is another achievement that I just missed out on by a little bit. Once again, kind of a pattern forming here. Or we could do some upside down parkour on some giant flowers that for some reason took me way longer than it should have. Oh, or I know this one's a classic. We could hop on the back of a giant spider and then ride it from side to side based on where we go on its back. Pretty cool stuff going on down here. Or maybe imagine, if you will, riding on the back of some beetles. Huh? It's nothing, I know. Anyway, eventually after we've done all of that exploring and collected all of the shine balls that there are to collect, we climb to the top of that tree and build another bridge to rise once again. Once we get to the top of the eye, we sing it a song, of course, and that slowly raises us into the air and we spin around a couple of times. Until eventually that spinning eye decides to slowly lower us back down towards the ground, or I guess quite quickly back down towards the ground, but don't worry, we're not injured or anything. We just land right back at the shrine and we see the constellation form above us one more time. If you've played this game before, please let me know in the comments down below. Did you think that the game was about to end right there? I actually put the controller down because I just thought we were doing a cinematic at the end once we started spinning, and that just wasn't the end. There's still a little bit to go here. We climb up to the top of one more tower, but just before we can get on the constellation bridge, we see a face appear out of that black muck that we saw earlier, and this face looks pretty familiar. That is, until it starts screaming at us and it knocks us down back into this giant pit of whiteness. Eventually, when we reach the bottom of the whiteness, we see the face once again. The mouth opens up and swallows us, but we actually manage to fight our way out of the darkness, and the next time we see Gris, she is swimming up through the darkness and the ruins back towards the surface. Eventually, Gris manages to reach the surface. She's once again greeted by a bunch of these flapping black triangles, but we're not so afraid of those anymore. We made it through once, we could do it again. We pull ourselves out of the muck and find that we're at a tomb. We go ahead and sing a little bit to bring back some flowers, and we earn the achievement Acceptance for completing the 5th stage, and I can't help but feel like I missed a couple stages in there somewhere. We do one final climb up and reach the safety of another statue's palm as we begin to sing our song, and this time we actually have a little bit more power in the situation. As Gris sings, the pieces of the statue get pulled right back up out of the muck and reform the final perfect form of the statue in front of Gris. We've managed to rebuild the statue and Gris's memory of her mother, but the darkness is still taking over. But we've learned to kind of cope with it and overcome it at this point, and even those new dark thoughts are not powerful enough to shatter this new statue that we've created from the memory of the prior ones. And it's not only that, not only did we manage to fight off the darkness, but the statue actually begins to regain some color as well. And in fact, so does the entire world. The reds, greens, blues, and yellows that we restored on our journey are all working together now. Each area isn't defined by one individual color, they are all working in tandem to create one whole image. And man, this is another absolutely beautiful sequence right here. And again, during that cutscene, I really expected that to be the end of the game, but it is actually not. We get put down by the statue, and we have one last thing to finish. We put together this whole constellation bridge, and man, we may as well go ahead and walk up and finish it. As we slowly climb our way into the sky, the colors start to fade away into the whiteness as we earn the achievement The End for finishing up this game. Man, that was really beautiful at the end, all of those colors and everything, and luckily for us, we're going to get to revisit it to go clean up the achievements that we missed the first time around. So as soon as I finished up our first playthrough of the game that you just watched, the first thing that I wanted to do was return to the level that we just played out and find the missing magic fowls and sing to them to earn the magic fowls achievement. Now that went fine, I did manage to earn the achievement and everything, but it was kind of a bad idea to do this one first, because I decided that I missed enough of the mementos and the individual level achievements that it was worth just replaying the game from the start. This game is only like 2 hours long if you know where you're going and how to solve all of the puzzles, so it really wasn't a super big deal. I just wasted like 20 or 30 minutes or something collecting those magic fowls that I could have got later on. At the very start of the game, my first move was to walk to the left and look for an achievement, but I just did it a little bit too early. I needed to wait to get the ability to run and jump first, and then if you turn back to the left, you earn the achievement Denial, the first stage. Makes a lot more sense when you don't start out with the 5th one like we did, you know? I obviously didn't realize it at the time, but the kind of story of this game for me was just very narrowly missing out on a bunch of achievements over and over again, and as we play through the Sandstorm section without getting blown over, we earn the achievement Sandstorm. So close, we only missed once. And despite getting the first step correct, we actually missed out on the second stage, Anger, as well. Turns out you need to smash 3 very specific statues, and we managed to get the first one, but we missed out on the second one, so this time we make sure to run to the right as well and smash the 2 correct statues to clean that one up as well. And another very close heartbreaker, we smashed all of the stone piles except for the final 2 that are hidden down in this little path that I didn't think about accessing, and so we return here to get the achievement in Nuke Suit. And somehow we also managed to just barely miss out on the apples achievement as well. We fed this guy every single apple except for one that was on top of a bridge and we needed to walk him over to, and I just missed it. But we unlock that achievement here as well. However, I don't really blame myself for missing out on the third stage, Bargaining. We needed to go up to this statue and press the B button, which corresponds to the song, and we don't have that ability yet, so I didn't even know about it the first time around. And honestly, I don't blame myself for missing the fourth stage, Depression, either. We needed to follow the turtle down a little bit, but then stray off to the left in a very dark passage that I definitely didn't see the first time around. And as I mentioned previously, the eel boss fight has an achievement attached to it where you need to avoid all of the bites to earn the achievement Eel. I somehow failed to do that the first time around, I guess because Gris auto dodges, I just timed it poorly. And honestly, this is probably the hardest achievement in the game, honestly, even though it's not super difficult, but we managed to do it here and we earn the achievement as well. And now it's time for the achievements that made this whole second run actually make sense to go ahead and do, as we earn the achievement Mementos for finding and collecting all 28 of the mementos that were scattered throughout the world. And now that we have all 28 mementos stuffed in our pockets, we can go and view the secret end cutscene of the game that I completely missed the first time, and, you know, I definitely would have continued to miss because I didn't have all of the mementos. We earn the achievement Childhood as we get a little flashback as we pan down from the moon and see a very young Gris sitting with a woman who is presumably her mother, and this game about depression and acceptance and dealing with grief begins to make a whole lot more sense. And with that one out of the way, I can officially say that I have done everything there is to do in Gris, or Gris. Still not really sure. But how did we do? Like I mentioned, this game could be completed in basically like 2 hours if you followed a guide and you knew exactly where to go, how to solve all the puzzles and everything. But with my first playthrough combined with the second one where I was cleaning up all of the achievements, I took about 6.5 hours to wrap things up, so still a pretty short game, but could be a lot shorter. Obviously, my main takeaway from this game is that it was just absolutely beautiful, and the creator and studio that made Gris actually came out with a second game in 2024 called Neva, so I will definitely be checking that one out in the near future as well to go ahead and wrap up what the studio has produced so far. This game also kind of plays in the style of a Limbo or an Inside, where there's no dialogue spoken, everything is based on the world building and the little puzzles that you solve. Except this one is obviously much less grim, a lot less darkness and things like that, though some of the areas are a little bit dark, but it's all about color and patterns and stuff like that, so it is super interesting. This game is kind of interesting because it's a puzzle game, but like I mentioned before, none of the puzzles are super difficult, so it's kind of walking simulator-esque, I guess. Apparently Neva actually adds combat to the recipe as well, so I'm pretty excited to see how they do that. Anyway, that's enough about a game that I didn't even play yet. You know, we can discuss that one more when the time comes and I actually get around to playing that one. As always, I hope you enjoyed watching this video, and I hope to see you in the next one. I believe, and I say believe, but I'm pretty certain this video is going out on January 1st, so I hope everybody has a great new year, everybody stays safe, and I hope to see you next week for the next upload as well. Thanks so much for watching, and have a great day. See you!